Great. Well, welcome everyone. We'll stick to our timeline and we'll let people come in as they come in. My name is Diego Rios. Thank you for joining our HFK Info Session. We're here for Kids International, as you know, because you are here. Thank you for being here. Like I mentioned, there are people that are still coming in to our info session, and there's others that aren't able to make it. So we're going to be recording this session and sending it all to them. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll tell you a bit of what we're going to be doing today. This is our agenda for the next 30 minutes. We're going to do a bit of an intro of who I am, of who the other staff member is that you see here. I'd love to hear kind of where you are all coming from. Then I'm going to be talking a little bit about Here for Kids, who we are, about us, then where we serve, where we take our international service trips and where we go serve. Then we're going to talk about the details of international service trips. So that's the reason most of you are here today, to kind of understand what Here for Kids offers and what our international service trips are all about. And I'll share some kind of samples, like some sample itineraries, some pictures of the work that we do. And then we'll open it up for questions, and then we'll see what questions you all have, so that we can answer any of those and maybe get you on one of our trips that are coming up this 2023. Cool. So we'll get started here then. Let me introduce our team. Before I introduce myself, I'll introduce Miranda O'Brien. She is one of our interns. She actually lives in the Dominican Republic. I'll give her 10 seconds to briefly introduce herself and her connection to Here for Kids.
I'm Miranda O'Brien. I live in the Dominican Republic. I'm currently the Community Development Intern here at Here for Kids. And I've known Here for Kids for about 12 years.
Great. Thank you, Miranda. And Miranda is a missionary down in the Dominican Republic, and she's supporting us from abroad. So thank you, Miranda, for being here and kind of supporting the logistics of this meeting. My name is Diego Rios. I was born in Colombia, moved to California when I was 8, and have always had a heart for service. I was introduced to Here for Kids International in 2015 when I was at St. Mary's College of California, where I met our founder. Our founder was a soccer coach at St. Mary's College of California and began this organization. I went on my first trip in 2015 and eventually became the executive director back in 2020 when our founder kind of decided to retire and create a sustainable environment for HFK to move forward. So ever since, we've been moving forward with staffing changes and growing. So that's who I am. Let me tell you a little bit about our team. We're a growing staff of 9, and we're serving from all over the place, like I mentioned. We are based in California, some of us in Dominican Republic, and others in Spain. Actually, Miranda's manager is in Spain playing semi-pro soccer. So she couldn't make it right now because I think it's 3 or 4 in the morning for her, and she had a game today. And I'd love to hear in the chat where everyone is calling from and how you heard about Here for Kids. So I'll allow a minute or so, a few seconds for that to come in. So where you're coming from and I heard about Here for Kids in the chat so that we can know who's in the call. Arkansas, welcome, Emily. Nice, Chicago. Yes, Brianna, how are you? Good to see you. Last time we saw each other was in Indiana. Nice. Here for Kids, for those that don't, you see Urbana. For those that don't know and maybe found out about our call through another way, we Here for Kids was at a conference in Indianapolis this past week, right before New Year's, and we were able to meet a lot of people and make some connections with people that we had never met before. And for those that are coming from Urbana, there's also other people on here that maybe were invited by team captains or maybe people that have heard about it from our newsletter. So welcome, everyone. I see California, San Jose, Seal Beach, California. Great. Chicago, Arkansas. Well, thank you so much for being here. Great. We'll continue then with our slide deck. Let me give you a bit of history on Here for Kids International. In 2003, our founder, who you see there, his name is Randy Ferris. He was a soccer coach, and he went to the Dominican Republic with a soccer ball and with the desire to just kind of play with the kids and serve. He had a missionary friend in the Dominican Republic. He loved it, and he came back to the United States, to California, inspired to take more and to do more. So he started taking teams of students. So in 2005, he took the first college team, which you can see there at the bottom. Some of those people are still involved, which is beautiful to see. So a lot happened since then. In 2005, he started taking teams, but it was through the school. So the school was kind of sponsoring the teams. And in 2010, it officially became a nonprofit organization, thanks to kind of God's grace and things kind of working out. So since 2010, we've been officially working as a nonprofit, and we've been taking trips to different countries, which I'll explain later. And today, I am kind of replacing Randy. Randy is our founder, and he still supports us and guides us in many ways, but our staff has definitely grown and expanded. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now, or we can also leave them towards the end. So if there are longer questions, feel free to write them down or throw them in the chat, and then Miranda, you can tell me if any questions pop up. All right, let me share our mission. The mission of Here for Kids International is the mission of Here for Kids International is to educate the general public regarding the benefits of serving those who are disadvantaged and to provide spiritual guidance and charitable assistance to impoverished and at-risk children and youth. We believe in one God, and we hold to this truth that we are blessed to be a blessing. And you can see our slogan on the bottom right. Our slogan is teaching the eternal joy of service. So those are the t-shirts that the participants get when they go on service trips. And I'll talk briefly about each image. The one at the top, we went to Costa Rica in November, and we were able, that was kind of the closing prayer with the kids after doing some work. As you can see, our shorts are full of paint because we were doing a painting project. And at the bottom, this was in July, so recently in Peru. We were July is Peru's, well, in July is Peru's Independence Day, just like the US. So they were having a celebration for Independence Day, and we were kind of singing their independence songs, and that was a picture from behind. All righty, our work. Like I mentioned, and from our history, you can kind of deduce, we have been serving for 20 years, officially as a nonprofit for 13 years. Our specialty or our focus is short-term service opportunities. So what does that mean? That means month-long, week-long, weekend, or even day. So when Randy first started taking trips, we started taking month-long. That says but it should say month-long. We started taking month-long trips, but then it kind of developed into taking week-long trips. And that really is our bread and butter, week-long trips, because it's really tailored towards people that either have full-time jobs or are full-time students and can only travel during a spring break or in the summer, or people that can only take 1 week off of responsibilities that they have. And it can also be a way for people to explore the possibility of serving longer term. So they can go on this week-long service trip, see if that's something they want to do and maybe stay longer, and then talk with the organization that we partner with and maybe do a 2-year stint, or kind of see that that's what they can do and how they can serve, and they can do that on an annual basis. We've then, since the pandemic, explored weekend service trips. The picture on the top right is a team that we took to Tijuana, to Mexico, and it was a weekend. It was Friday to Sunday, and we were able to serve the community and play soccer with the kids. And this was actually during the halftime of the World Cup soccer final, of the FIFA World Cup final, because we kind of hosted a viewing party for them. And we've also explored day service. So let's say one of you wants to maybe start to dabble into service and you want to do trash cleanup in your community. We're happy to collaborate with you and make that happen, which we did here in the Bay Area. We also partnered with the school, with Edaville Elementary School, and we did a day-long service where we invited the community to come and kind of re-beautify or beautify the school. So those were day-long service trips. But like I said, our focus is week-long trips. We partner with organizations that work with children. So like I said, we partner with a school here in the Bay Area or in different countries in South America and Central America. We partner with organizations that work with children, and some of them rescue children from extreme poverty or domestic abuse and work with them in care homes. So when we go, we support their ministry in whatever service project they need, and we work with the kids, hence our name. So as you can see, those are 2 examples there. The picture on the bottom right was from a vision trip I did to Colombia. So we also have plans to expand to different countries. And the last point on the left is our focus is on sports and service projects. So like I mentioned, our founder was a soccer coach. And so there has always been kind of this love for sports and for soccer through our trips. But it's also developed into whatever our partner sites need, which I'll talk about soon. All righty. So where we serve. We serve in 6 different countries and in various cities within each of those countries. If someone could tell me the countries on the top based on those flags, who can tell me the first flag on the left, what country that's from? Who can tell me? Who can unmute themselves and tell me? Who's good at flags? Who can recognize the left flag?
DR.
Dominican Republic.
Nice. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Oscar. DR, Dominican Republic. What about the next one?
Let's see.
Peru.
Peru. Thank you, Katia. Peru. Katia is actually from Peru, so I'm glad she said something. The next flag? Who can tell me what that flag is?
Costa Rica.
Yes, good job, Zach. Costa Rica, thank you. What about the blue on top, the red on the bottom? What flag is that?
Haiti.
This one right here.
We don't
Haiti.
see the flags.
Haiti, yes. Thank you, Sandra. Haiti. The one to the right of that one? I think we see that
Mexico.
one. Mexico. Thank you, Sandra. Yes. And then the last one on the right.
Colombia.
Colombia, yes, thank you very much. Those are the 6 countries that we currently partner with, in addition to the United States, as I mentioned, our day experiences and weekend experiences. But those are the 6 countries that we serve in. We would love to expand to a new country. If you have some type of connection, let's say, in a new country, and you'd love to expand to that country, we want to go there as well. What we need is a partner in that country that already has an established location, accommodation, work with the ministry or some kids, and we're happy to make that connection. But for now, these are the countries that we serve in. Within each of those countries, we have different cities in which we work in. So for example, in the Dominican Republic, there's 3 different cities that we serve in. Let's see. We focus on increasing trip participation. Our focus right now is on increasing trip participation and expanding to other countries. So like I mentioned, we're happy to expand, but right now these are the ones that we're working in. Each country offers a different experience. As you can see on the top picture, we were at a nature park in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is beautiful and has lots of waterfalls. At the end of the service trip, we do an excursion, and this was one of them. And as you can see at the bottom, we went to Machu Picchu in April, and I think we have some participants here that are in that picture that went to Machu Picchu. So it provides a nice different experience to the service, in addition the exploration, the excursion. So question for you all to kind of ponder: where would you like to serve, right? Just based on what I just said and based on what you know about these countries. All righty. Now we'll focus on our international service trips. So I talked a lot about who we are as an organization, but now we're going to talk about specifically those trips and kind of everything that entails within those trips. We partner with organizations that specifically work with kids. We provide physical donations. As you can see on the top right, we are handing a couple of soccer cleats that were donated from the San Jose Earthquakes, a professional soccer team in San Jose, California. We partner with them. They donated a bunch of soccer gear so that we could donate it to our partners in Mexico. In Peru. So that was in Peru, and we were giving them some donations. Each participant is asked to bring 2 50-pound duffel bags filled with donations. And those donations can vary. It depends on what our partners ask that we want to bring or what we could provide. So we had a lot of soccer gear available because the earthquakes wanted it to go on that trip. So we were able to take that. We serve in what is needed or what expertise is available. On the left, you can see that in April, we were in Pucallpa in Peru, and they needed a rebuilding of this walkway. Not all of us knew about construction. Some of us did. So we served in whatever we could and in our capacity. But that is a project that they needed. So that's what we served in. Our focus is on sports, games, arts, and activities, or like I mentioned, the projects that they need. You can see on the bottom right, we were playing sports. We had a lot of sports times with the kids in Costa Rica. Sometimes we go to our partner sites and maybe they don't have school, so they're out of school, or it's their spring break, or it's their summer break, or their Semana Santa, their Holy Week. So when we go to their ministries, we see the kids all the time. So maybe they just need us to take care of the kids so that the house parents or the staff that takes care of the kids 24/7 can take a break. On the trip, during the week-long trip, we have daily devotionals and debriefs. So in the evenings, you as a team, if you're with an ideal team size, if you ask, is between 8 and 12 people. In the evenings, you're kind of debriefing the day. Okay, what did we do during the day? What kid did you connect with that you're never going to forget that face? We also like to talk about highs, lows, a holy moment that you had, something that you learned. So that really allows for some in-depth and special conversations in the evenings. And for your international service trips, you receive as a participant a care package. So as Here for Kids, we provide a care package for you before you travel, which will arrive at your house. And it'll include things like t-shirts, swag, so a couple of stickers and things from Here for Kids, but it'll also include a handbook that's being created specifically for that trip so that you can learn about the country, you can learn about the partner site. It'll include like a Spanish cheat sheet. So if you don't know Spanish, you can start studying, learn some words. It'll also include a document on trauma-informed care. So different details for you to prepare for your trip. So these are a couple of sample service projects that we've done. Some things that we go and our partners need are community outreach. For example, you can see on the top, we went to Mexico and we were able to provide 300 food baskets to the community during the holidays so that they can feed their families during the holidays. So that was kind of a community outreach that we did. Construction, you can see on the bottom right, that was a building that is now fully up and functioning in Constanza in the Dominican Republic, and we were helping build the second floor. Sports camps, you can see in the middle on the right, I think that was also in the Dominican Republic, and we were leading kind of a sports session for the kids. So they would go from basketball session to soccer session to a volleyball session. Painting, you can see on the bottom left to middle, we were helping repaint a couple of houses. That was in Costa Rica. Decorating. You can see on the bottom left, it's decorating and gardening. We are helping decorate different houses. So this specifically is a care home, which is basically an orphanage for kids that, again, have been rescued, and their families are being worked with to be able to reintegrate the kids with families. But in the meantime, they're in these care homes. So we were supporting decorating and gardening in that care home. Arts and crafts, you can see in the bottom middle, we do arts and crafts with the kids. Not all kids love sports, right? Just like not all participants love sports, and we recognize that. So we provide many options for kids to be active and interact with the kids. Cooking, there isn't a cooking picture on here, but there are people that when we go and serve, there are people that support us by kind of providing and cooking for us during the week. But a lot of the times participants, if they have that kind of love, sometimes they talk with the cook or they help him or her cook. So it creates a nice relationship there. I think Katia, when she was in Peru, she kind of bonded with one of the cooks that we had there. So, and many more. These are just some activities and projects that our partners require of us. As you can see on the top right, sometimes it's kind of making sure that the kids are being okay, especially when there's a pool involved. So sometimes it's project that they require of us or that they ask of us, or sometimes it's projects that we say, hey, we know that we're taking a nursing team. Everyone on our team is really good, is a nursing student. Then we can go with the focus of doing nurse specific tasks. Or if everyone is a construction worker, like maybe it's everyone knows about construction, then you can really focus on a construction project. All righty. Great. I'm going to get into a couple of details of service trips. Are there any specific questions now? Again, we'll provide space for questions after, but if there's any clarifying questions now, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. Feel free to stop me if you need. This is a sample week-long trip itinerary. So we go for a week, like I mentioned, and this is around what it would look like. Generally, trips run from a Saturday to a Sunday. So that means you either fly out of the US on a Friday evening or on a Saturday morning to be able to land at our partner site Saturday sometime. So Saturday is kind of the day to settle in. Then Sunday comes around, and sometimes it's either attending church with the kids, or kind of getting to know the site and the kids, or maybe like a local excursion with the kids. We went to Lima recently, and on Sunday we kind of went to do a fishing trip, and I think you saw a picture of that recently. We did a fishing trip for Sunday and then came back and kind of settled in. So that's kind of the weekend that we come in. Then Monday to Friday, we're on the site and we're supporting in whatever project they need. So if we look at the schedule here, Saturday, the team arrived late at night, and then Sunday, there was a breakfast and an orientation. There was lunch out, and then that PM that's empty. Let me point here. That PM that's empty. That was what I told you that we went to fishing. Then it was dinner. Then Monday to Friday is service. So in the mornings, whatever project is needed at hand is done in the mornings, as you can see. Then there's lunch. Then in the PM, as you can see, there's a lot of kids, time with the kids. So it was either playing with the kids or doing some type of activity with the kids. And then in the evening, we have dinner as a team. Sometimes it's dinner with the team, with the kids. So as you can see on Thursday night, because it was a last night, it was a campfire dinner with the. So this trip was to Peru, and there was an excursion, like I said, attached to Peru, which for this specific one was Machu Picchu. So on Friday afternoon, we left for the airport, but sometimes we do an excursion Saturday or Sunday. So like I said, this is kind of a sample one. So the excursion starts Saturday, and then on Sunday you would fly out, or Saturday night you fly out, and then you make it back home Sunday. For this specific trip, we actually extended it one more day, and people got back on Monday so that they could have one more day in Cusco and Machu Picchu. Like I mentioned, this is just a sample of one of the many trips that we've had, and they're all very different. We communicate with our partners and plan beforehand. So this is a process that we go through with our partners. Okay, what do our participants need? Are there any dietary restrictions? When can we have lunch? So all of this is communicated beforehand, and you as a team participant kind of just are at the guidance of your team captain in our communication with the partners. And we're very flexible based on the trip participants' desires and restrictions. So let's say you are a team, let's say you're a college team and you're going in the summer, and instead of going 9 days, you want to do a week and a half. We can totally make that happen, and our partners would be happy to have you extra time. So it's really flexible and depends on the team captain's needs, but the team participants obviously require or have some restrictions. Some people can only take a week off, or some people can do, okay, I'm on summer, so I can take 2 weeks, right? So it's very flexible. All righty. That was a sample itinerary. Now we're going to jump into fundraising and scholarships. So nothing is free, right? So I want to talk about kind of the fundraising and the scholarship piece here. The cost of each trip varies by trip. As you can see on the right side, this is really just a screenshot of the trip description that we have on our website. So you can see that on the bottom, if you go to hereforkids.org/service, each trip is different. This is taken from a trip that's going to the Dominican Republic. So I'm just going to read it out loud so that we can all be on the same page here. Financial commitment. Below is a breakdown of the cost associated with the service trip. Once your application is accepted, you will be asked to pay a $230 deposit to secure your spot on the team. Then you will be required to follow the funding milestones on your GoMethod profile. GoMethod is a software that we use and you kind of create a profile with. To stay up to date on your trip payments. The total trip payment is due no later than 14 days before the departure of your trip. And this is a breakdown of the cost. So everything is included. Once that amount is paid, you do not need to pay absolutely anything as soon as you get on the airport until you come back. The only thing that you would want to take maybe is cash for souvenirs, but that's about it, or any extra kind of snacks that you want to have. But other than that, everything is taken care of because this is a breakdown of the cost. So the airfare and the baggage fees, that's kind of an estimate that we gave based on the of the location that we're traveling to. So that's a fixed cost. And then comes fees from our partners. So this specific partner, which is Kids Alive International, has two different fees. One is an in-country cost, which includes the transportation, your food, your lodging, activities, and the week-specific project funds. So that kind of covers your room and board for the week. Then the $500, which is their second fee. And again, that's just literally what they're charging each participant. And we get charged that, and then we pass it on to the participant. The $500 is a Kids Alive Child Care and Rescue Fund, which is basically a donation to support continued care for the children and the program's growth, which you would learn a lot more about once you're there. Then there's a $100 fee for the HFK operations and the care package cost. So just basically just covering all the printing cost, all the shirts, all the swag items that you would be getting and kind of managing the trip. The trip insurance, there's travel insurance for each trip that we cover for you, and then we take care of all the logistics for that. And then depending on the excursion, that's where the price kind of shifts based on each location. For this, because it's in the Dominican Republic, we usually do kind of a beach day or a resort, and that would just be $200. So that would be a total of $2,300. Like I said, this is a sample. This is an example of one of the trips, but based on which trip you're interested in, that would change. So that's kind of the fee that's there, but there's a lot of ways in which we want to support you to get to that fee. So let me read the bottom section, which says fundraising and scholarships. All trip participants are encouraged to fundraise to complete their total trip cost. You're easily able to ask your community to support you to support your trip by creating a personal support page, and are always welcome to raise more than required amounts as a donation towards your team goal. We will also provide fundraising info sheet and a fundraising letter template, which you can find in our service trip resources here. So all of that just talked about fundraising, which I'll talk about right after this. And also we provide scholarships. For this trip, in addition to fundraising, we are offering the following types of scholarships for team participants that need financial assistance to complete total trip payments: a 15% scholarship and a 30% scholarship. You can apply for a scholarship during your application process if needed. Scholarship money is limited and will only be awarded to participants who need the financial assistance. So all that to say, there are many ways in which you can reach that final price. So let me talk about the fundraising more. This is an example of a personal support page. So we give you a link, like I said, and you can create your own personal support page, which is this one. This is an example of a current trip participant, Sandra, who's going to Lima, Peru in June. She typed a little description. You can type a lot more, a lot less, whatever you want, and share that link with people. And people can support you and your trip. So let's say you can share that with your coworkers, with the coworkers of your parents, just anyone. Put it on social media, and people can support you in that way. So technically, it should cost you $0 to go on a trip if you're able to fundraise your trip cost. Lastly, I just wanted to share our trip dates. So these are the trip dates that we have set right now that are happening in 2023. We have a trip going to the Dominican Republic in March to April. We have another trip going to that same site in the Dominican Republic, late April, 22nd to the 30th. Then we have a trip May to June going to Costa Rica, and that's a closed trip. That's going to be kind of like a family trip, but we wanted to share it so that you know that we're serving Costa Rica. Then late June to Lima, Peru. Then June to July, we are going to Costa Rica. And late July going to the Dominican Republic. And again, that's a close trip because it's going to be kind of a family and friends trip. And we are planning to expanding to Colombia. We're still waiting to finalize the location and the dates. If these dates don't work for you, but you feel that passion to serve, we are happy to work with you, just like we worked with these team captains to create a trip that works for you and that you have people to serve with. So the hardest part for us, let's say, is to get people that want to serve. So if you have your family or your buddies or your church group that wants to serve with us, we are happy to take care of all the logistics, which is our specialty, to be able to go on these trips. But if you feel like one of these dates work for you and you like what you heard today, then you can find more information about each of these trips by going to that link right there at the bottom. This slide deck will be sent to all of you after this meeting, but now is really a time for questions. So I'd love to answer any questions. We're right at the 5:30. Well, I'd love to answer any questions that you might have after this presentation. There might be some questions, maybe that's something I didn't mention or something that wasn't clear. I'm happy to answer any of that. And I think we have a couple people here that are either team captains or experienced team participants that can also chip in if needed.
This is Kevin from Chicago with Brianna.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, so is that price the same for like the weekend as well?
No, so that would definitely be a different price. Let me stop sharing here, and if I need to, I'll share again. That way we can see each other. No, so like I mentioned, we offer weekend service experiences, but that's something that we are developing now. We went to Mexico in December, and we went for a weekend. The price for that weekend was $250. You had to figure out your own transportation, but once we got to San Diego, all of us kind of carpooled over and carpooled back, and $250 covered your room and board for the whole weekend and $100 100 donations, 100 bags, I'm sorry, 100 food basket donation. Each bag was $10, so that covered 100 of them. No, I'm sorry, 10 bags per person. So it was a room and board plus that donation, so that was a very kind of accessible trip, but that was for the weekend experience in Mexico.
Okay, so then the weekends, you guys are still trying to develop more for like Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic then?
That would be hard. We were able to do weekend experiences in Mexico because it was close. We had a connection in San Diego. One of our staff members was there, so we were able to kind of do it Friday to Sunday. Going down to Costa Rica or Colombia would be very hard to do for a weekend just because of the transportation times. It would take around a day to travel. So it wouldn't be worth it to go. And that's part of the reason why we haven't expanded across the pond, maybe to Asia or Africa, because people can only maybe serve for a week. And if the travel time is a day and a half times 2, that's like 3 days, then it cuts into the trip a lot. So right now, our weekend service experiences are focused with our partners that we have in Tijuana in Mexico.
Okay, and then one last question. For like the May 27th and the July 30th ones, is there a link on the page where we can go sign up for the application and the deposit?
Yes, you can. I will send that link in the chat right now so that everyone can see it. Here it is, service. So once you go to that link on our website, you can see all the different trips. Once you click one of those trips, then you can get more information. Just the piece that I showed on the finance and the scholarships, that's just one section of the many different sections that each trip has. Thanks for your question, Kevin. What other questions can I answer from anyone?
I have a question. So do you advise for each team member to create a Go Method page?
Yes, each trip member has to create a Go Method page. That's basically the way in which we kind of accept your application. Think of it as like a college application. You have to create a college kind of profile to be able to apply so that you can then communicate with them. So that's how we do our communication. That's how you have that link to be able to share it with your family and friends. That's where you upload your documents that we require of you. So yes, everyone needs to create a Go Method page. And we have many training videos for you to review so that you can know how to do that, and we'll train you and we'll walk you through that whole process. I see a question in the chat. Let me just see here. What is the minimum age for participants or to be able to apply? That's a good question, Katya. Thank you. We've taken high school trips before. So that's what, 14 to 18. We did have a couple, we did have to go through extra paperwork and get a couple of chaperones, let's say. But let's say if that's your son or daughter or nephew or someone that's your family and you travel with them, that's no problem. You can totally come with them. The only way it becomes an issue is if they're traveling alone, right? If it's an underage student traveling alone. Beyond 18, anyone, and there is no age limit. In our last trip, we had a 7-year-old and his wife, and another 7-year-old, a couple 50-year-olds, and 30-year-olds, and a 21-year-old. So just imagine the discussions in the evenings, right? The devotional times, the conversations that we would have, really beautiful. And that was when we were in Lima. So no age limit, and then minimum, depending if it's a family member and you're traveling with them, then there was no issue. If you're not a family member, then we do have to do some extra paperwork, but we could deal with that on a case-by-case basis. And then I see Sandra Lopez, your question about Machu Picchu. Because the excursion in Peru is to Machu Picchu, that definitely incurs a higher cost. So in that, I don't know the exact cost, but if you click that link I sent and you go to the Lima one, it's going to have the breakdown on there. So like I said, each trip has a different breakdown and you can explore it there.
Hi, this is Tiffany. I do have two questions. One, do you all provide training for those individuals that have never been on a missions trip before?
That's an excellent question. And yes, we do. So the team captains are in charge. The ones you see here or that you saw on what I was sharing are kind of in charge of the team. But we as Here for Kids as an organization support the team captains and the team participants in every step of the way. We have a couple of team meetings before traveling, and we provide, like I mentioned, a care package that arrives in your house. That has information about our partners, about trauma-informed care, about a Spanish cheat sheet, social media guidelines that you need to review before traveling. At the same time, you don't really need much training because it all happens once you're there. Once you're there and you have that initial training from our partners, basic like specific rules about how to deal with the kids once we're there. After that, the rest is just interacting with the kids and making sure that we support our partners in the right way.
Thank you. And then my last question is about safety. What are the safety measurements that you all take to keep your team safe and those children as well, I guess?
Yeah, that's another excellent question. We every partner that we have, we've taken a vision trip to and many service trips to before this trip is happening. And in no trip that we've had anything extreme happen. We've definitely had people that have missed their flights, or maybe once we're there, got a stomach bug or something and had to go to the hospital. Before I was involved, I think someone broke their arm, but then they were able to kind of figure it out when they were there. All of that is thanks to the travel insurance that we purchased for you before traveling. And we always have an operations team on hand, ready to deal with any kind of flight issues that might happen. So if there's any missed flights, then we have a chat happening, and then they know when you missed your flight, we can get you on a different flight, or we figure out the transportation to then pick you up on the next flight that comes in. We've just to answer that, we don't partner with anyone where we know that our trips won't be safe and our participants won't be safe. We only partner with organizations and churches that have already had teams and that we've traveled to a lot before.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your questions. Any other questions? I see some in the chat. Thank you. Let me read that real quick. Emily, sports, yes. Okay. Being someone not talented in sports, mentioned that there could be other options. Yes. I think there might be some participants here, or if there's any participants or captains here that have traveled before that can help me answer this, I'd love to hear from you as well. But we have many options to do arts and crafts, or we had in one of the recent trips, someone kind of took down a training. It was a training for older students. So while we were playing with the kids and doing sports with the kids, these participants kind of had like a training, which was a daily training where they went with the kids. And it was kind of, I don't know what it was because I didn't participate, but it was a training on kind of exploring themselves. I think it was similar to like a Myers-Briggs for them to understand their personality types. So like they really focused and spend time doing that for the kids while everyone else was playing with sports with the kids. And there's a lot of unstructured time. Don't think of this as being like, okay, from 2 to 4, we have to be playing soccer with the kids and there has to be a soccer game happening. Not at all. You'll see that kids all kind of want to start playing, and then some of them start to trickle away. And then that's where you kind of start making that one-on-one connection with one of the kids that maybe you connect with that and they don't play soccer and you don't either. And then you're on the playground or you're drawing. So there's many opportunities for you to connect with those kids that aren't sporty, let's say. Maybe Jorge or Marisol, do you guys have anything more to say about that? If not, that's fine.
I can jump in.
Yeah,
I've led a lot of, my teams have always been the ones where we, it's not necessarily everybody from one college. It's kind of everyone that, can't can only make 1 week. So we've had a hodgepodge of many different backgrounds and ages and everything. And yeah, Emily, we've had a bunch of people who aren't that much into sports, and they've, you know, hung out with the kids who don't play sports either, or helped the house parents with things, or, you know, just done a bunch of different projects and everything that aren't sports related that they still need help with. And I've done most of my trips in Constanza in the Dominican Republic, and there's so much that needs to be done there, and not everything is focused on sports. So yeah, if you're not a sporty person, or if you know people who want to serve and aren't that into sports, we welcome it, because there's kids in the orphanages and schools and everything that don't necessarily like to play sports either, and need that person to bond with. And, you know, like Diego said, draw, do arts and crafts, just anything, help with their home, you know, whatever they want to do. All the girls like to, you know, braid hair and everything. So there's so many different things that you'll find something to bond with a lot of kids on during the week. So yeah.
Thank you, Zach. That's helpful. And it reminded me of a couple of videos that we have on our website. So if you explore our website, or if you see the HFK testimonial, you'll see many examples there of non-sports activities. Because when you said braiding hair, that reminded me of one of the shots. Yeah, thank you, Zach. Is COVID shot or vaccinations required? They were during COVID, during kind of peak pandemic, but now they're not. So that is not a requirement anymore from our partners. We respect what our partners' policies are. We don't have any shot or vaccination requirements of our own, because our focus is the kids. And if our partners are doing that to protect the kids, then we implement it. If they're not, then they know what they're doing, and we kind of don't implement it. Right now, none of our partners are requiring any vaccinations.
Just so everybody knows, we went on our first trip last year with Diego to Pucallpa, and got to spend a couple of days over there at Cusco and Machu Picchu. And that's why we're back. And literally, we could probably put together a trip of 50. We bragged about our trip so much that it was flawless. Everything worked perfect. So I don't think I've ever been on something with that many logistics to come together that well. So hats off to Diego. Anybody that's wondering, it's a piece of cake. I never felt unsafe. Always extremely organized. I'm a little nervous about being a team leader because I'm not as organized, but with their help, we will make it.
Thank you, Wade. I appreciate that a lot. And Wade went during a difficult time. The pandemic was still happening. We had to test a couple of times. So it all worked out. And I do want to recognize Wade's wife, who's also co-leading with him now, Amber. She is a hairdresser, and she took her things, her tools, to be able to do that work and serve in that way in Pucallpa. And once the community found out about it, especially the moms in the area, there was a long line the next day. So again, it's very flexible, and if someone has expertise or maybe a talent that they bring to the table, we're happy to make that work. And our partners are always looking for kind of new things to implement.
Just so the group knows, my brother-in-law, his son is going through dental school, and he is a dentist, my brother-in-law, and so they wanted some kind of dental application. So he's going with that. We're going to serve with some dental applications, and I'm sure my wife will get to do a million haircuts again. I'm just a grunt, so I'll do the new deck or construction. But and so it's going to be fun for my nephew, because it will be one little resume for him to help get into dental school at the same time doing something constructive or something good. So we got a lot of excitement around us for that.
Nice. Thank you, Wade. Appreciate that. All righty. Did that bring up any other questions from anybody?
It does. Real quick, I wanted to ask a question as far as the barbering. I'm a barber out here in Chicago. What type of paperwork or documents would I need to go out there and serve with that?
Nothing. Your tools.
Okay. Clippers. That's it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Your
cool.
clippers.
I
And a
promise.
good haircut, or else they won't believe you.
I promise no one in Peru was checking her cosmetology license. No.
Yeah, so just to explain that further, Philip, we we went for a week with the purpose of kind of supporting what project they needed, which was rebuilding that deck, which I think I showed in one of the pictures. But Amber also took her her equipment and was able to support by kind of cutting some hairs of the staff members. Then the word got out, and then the community started to come and was like, yeah, we would love a haircut. And she was like, I'm happy to give one. And she started giving haircuts. So it's a way, it was an extra layer of service that we had. We went with the specific project of the deck and rebuilding it, which we finished, but maybe when there were downtimes or only 2 or 3 people could be, you know, hammering, then she was able to take advantage of that and serve in that way. Yeah.
Philip, I know for a fact, these kids in Constanza, they used to have, Miranda could tell you this, but Fred used to have a couple of people who had graduated from Kids Alive come back and cut on site. They had a little barber room at the Arc, but I know for a fact if you come on one of the Constanza trips, you'll be cutting all day, every day, because those kids love a fresh haircut, and Fred is all about, you know, hooking the kids up and everything. So yeah, your services would be heavily used on a trip for sure.
Yeah. And let me know if you're gonna go, so I can start growing out my hair.
Got you. For sure.
One other quick note, Philip, is I know that they did like I'm drawing a blank on the word, but like courses for adults to learn that.
Yeah, it was like classes.
The job. And so what you'll find is, yeah, you'll have a line of kids and adults want a haircut, but then if you can also take that to the next level and, you know, be teaching some men how to barber, or in my case, my wife taught a lot of ladies how to cut hair so that they can cut their kids or cut their families. And, you know, she was teaching them, you know, trimming with the clippers and cutting and women's and men's. And so it turned into like a vocational, that was the word I was looking at, really turned into a vocational opportunity for someone that wanted to build a new skill.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad we got that answer to you, Philip. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Definitely.
Cool. Any other questions? One came up that maybe we hadn't answered, which was a language barrier. I know I mentioned a Spanish cheat sheet. I did get this question a lot at Urbana, which was, is not knowing Spanish a barrier, or is that in any way a requirement to know Spanish? And my answer was, in no way is it a requirement. There's a funny story of a participant that went to the Dominican Republic. I assume maybe a lot of you might know how to say no in Spanish, which the answer, who can tell me, is?
No.
Is no. Thank you.
Right.
So this participant, 2 days into the trip, goes up to our founder and says, hey, Randy, this kid keeps bothering me and I just want him to stop. How do I say no? And Randy said, we've been here for 2 days and you don't know how to say no. So in no way is it a barrier. It actually allows an extra layer of kind of work on the connection, because you have to connect either through sports, and that's why we love sports so much, or through arts and crafts or painting, right? So in no way is it a requirement. And then your trip is also all going to be speaking English. So in the evenings you do devotionals, and it's also a beautiful way for sometimes the team captains, if they do speak Spanish, they can be that bridge, and they can be that bilingual bridge between the two. Miranda, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was. So a lot of the places we serve at do have American missionaries who do know how to speak Spanish and English. So I myself and my family, we are always like around to translate. We'll never just like leave you by yourself and like on your own. Like somebody will always be around for help. So that's not a problem at all. And if you ever want to have a conversation, you basically just pull us aside and be like, hey, can you translate for me, please? And we will be happy to help you.
Right. Thank you, Miranda. That's true. That's a good point, Jorge. Sometimes the kids know English too, and they want to practice. As much as you might want to practice Spanish, they want to practice English because maybe they're learning it in school. So that's actually a great point. Thank you, Jorge. All righty, well, to close off, and right before we hit the hour mark, I'd love for someone to say either something you learned and is exciting for you, or if you're a returner, just kind of a tip or something that makes you come back to serve with HFK. So if possible, everyone, but I don't want to put anyone on the spot. So if you're a newcomer, I'd love to hear what you're excited about and what kind of you liked to hear, and if you're a returner, why you keep coming back.
I'll start. Man, if anybody's on the fence, I promise everybody that went with us is begging to go again. I took one of our daughters last year and her boyfriend. We went with some people we didn't know and built lifetime relationships. And now everybody we know wants to go. So if you're on the fence, get off the fence. You won't regret it. So,
Nice. Thank you, Wade.
Thank you.
We already had the opportunity to serve with HFK here in San Jose locally, and it's wonderful to see the response of the community and the community involvement, and that like inspired us to take this step internationally. So we're excited to go to Peru this June.
Thank you very much, Sandra and Oscar.
So I'm from Florida. I met Diego at Urbana, and I remember that you were sharing some of the places that you guys have been before, but I just pretty much Peru is what stuck with me. So going back through the information that you were kind of like telling me, it's cool to know that there are like 6 different countries that you guys are serving. So there's a lot of different options to explore. And I haven't done anything like this before internationally. So it's super exciting. And I'm glad that, you know, there is still a way to be a part of this, even though I'm not like a fluent Spanish speaker. So that's very encouraging. And I love sports. So that's really cool that I could possibly be a part of this and connect with kids through sports. So it seems like a very beautiful organization and mission and everything. So I'm really excited. And I think it's really cool that there's a lot of flexibility as well with everybody's interests. And yeah, so very exciting, very cool.
Great to hear, Zoe. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And there's a couple of team captains here. So maybe you'll see them again if you get to serve with them.
Shameless plug. My name is Jorge. I'm from Oakland. I went to St. Mary's. I started serving since 2010 years. 2013 was my first trip. I'll be leading with Dennis Wright at the end of March to one of the places actually Zach mentioned, Constanza, Dominican Republic. So yeah, I encourage you, whatever works best for your schedule. But like I said, shameless plug, we're the first team up this spring at the end of March. So if it works for your schedule and you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And just thank you for being here tonight.
Nice. Thank you, Jorge.
I'll follow that. If you can't make it at the end of March, you can come at the end of April to the same spot. So there's 2 options to get to Constanza. But funny stories is that was also my first trip. Jorge and I were on the same trip in 2013, spring break at St. Mary's in Constanza. And like I had actually the older sister of Kristen who led Wade's trip was telling myself and 2 guys who played on the men's soccer team, like, oh, you guys are going to come back, change people. Like it's going to change your life. Like, the typical things that people tell you on a trip like this. And you say, oh yeah. Like you say, yeah, sure. Whatever. And sure enough, like that first day, you understand what she meant. And you really do come back changed. And like, I came back and told my mom about it. And she's like, you're going next year. Like I literally didn't have a say in if I was going or not the following year. She's like, no, you need to go back, which was great. And Wade's right. Like I've made, after leading for what'll be the 10th time this year, like I've made lifelong bonds with people who I've only spent a week with in my life, with people throughout the country. And then also like in the DR, like Miranda and her family I've known since my first trip, and also Vic and Leslie who run Kids Alive down there, and some of the kids just that I've met down there. So you really do make lifelong bonds with the people you serve with and the house parents, the missionaries, everybody throughout each site. And each trip is really different. So yeah, if you're on the fence, go, because the name of the game is flexibility. You got to be flexible because you never know what's going to happen on these trips with your schedule and your timeline and everything. But it's literally like the best experience you'll ever have. And you learn more from the kids than you could ever teach them. So I mean, it's life changing, and it's worth every time and dollar spent. But yeah, the bonds, and even with people who, like, I've never served with Wade, but I could tell, him and I would get along pretty well, just because we've all been on a mission trip with the same organization, similar kids. So it's all one big family, and you meet someone who served on a trip and you already have a bond to talk about for hours. So highly recommend it. And yeah, if you have time at the end of April, come on in, because I'm actually leading the trip with a girl who used to play on the soccer team at St. Mary's, and I led her first trip when she was a freshman at St. Mary's. So it came full circle, and now we're co-leading, which is crazy.
Yeah,
so that's the first that ever happened.
Yeah, nice, Zach. Well, thank you. Well, I do want to respect people's time. So if anyone has the last things they want to say, I did the 30 minutes that was promised, and then you guys took it beyond that. So that's not on me, but I appreciate that. Any last comments from anyone? If not, then we can close it out. Brianna, go ahead. And Katya.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm pretty excited, one, because my wife and I, Brianna, one, she's a teacher, so she loves kids, and we have a lot of nephew and nieces, but one of our dreams was to work with kids in orphanages, to go out and help them as well. So that's one. So I'm just really excited to go serve to go serve for the kids, and then for as well as just I love sports as well too. And also yeah, so it's fun.
Nice. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. The team that's going to Peru in July is led by a teacher as well, and a guy who likes sports, and they're right there. So they would love, I think, to have you on the team as well. All right, we'll close out with Katya. Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you, Diego, for all the information, and to all the people who have participated and shared their experiences, because that really excites me now. And I am happy to learn more and to live the experience along with other participants. And over there in Peru, I am a teacher as well, and I now work in San Jose, but I'm from Peru. So for me, going and serving kids from my country, it's very, very special. And I will have that week being able to connect with them, make these connections, and to feel like if I am a teacher over there. So I am very excited about the whole service trip, and thank you for everything that you guys do.
Thank you, Katya. Well, thank you, everybody. I do want to respect people's time, like I said, and I appreciate all being here. We will send out a recording of this in the next few days. But thank you for being here. God bless you all. I hope this was what you needed to be able to either commit to service or kind of answer any questions you might have had. But if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to info@hereforkids.org. There's also a plug in the chat about our social media, who's Marisol there. She's our communication manager, so you can reach out to us on social media, on Instagram, and we're happy to answer any other questions. Thank you all very much. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.